What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to Second Chance Live. I'm your host, Daryl Stinson. Y'all, I am so excited. I got my man's Diamyn with me here today. We're going to be talking about winning the mental game. You know what time it is. If you're joining us, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and click that share button, drop a comment, let us know where you're tuning in from. Be generous with this message. I'm going to read his official bio, but I want to let you know on the front end, man, I checked dude out, man. His online presence is dope. And he got this killer instinct. Like it's like he be looking at you through the camera and just like sucking you in, man. I'm like, hey man, this dude is like hypnotizing or something, man. What's going on, man? Tell us about that, man. You've been practicing your video voice, haven't you?
Man, let me tell you. When you talk about the killer instinct, first thing that comes to my mind is a resource that I dove into and I studied like cover to cover. Relentless by Tim Grover.
Tim Grover.
He worked with Kobe Bryant, works with Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Have you seen the Michael Jordan interview? The docu-series or whatever?
Yeah, of course.
He was in there. And he wrote a book called Relentless. Whenever I first read that book, that changed my mindset.
Yeah.
On how to approach anything.
How so?
So he breaks it down into 3 different categories.
Mm-hmm.
You got closers, coolers, and then cleaners.
I'm definitely a closer. I can tell already. I can tell how you said it, boy.
That's like level 2.
Is it really?
3, yep, level 3. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, those guys fall into the cleaners. They're the people like clean the table when it's time. You know what I mean?
Oh, I got you.
You've got to dive into this resource, man. And all of you who are watching right now too, incredible resource to dive into.
We're gonna check that out, man. We're gonna check that out for sure. See, we already started. We already started. Look, already got resources coming. You know this is getting ready to be a good episode, man. As I read his bio, which, by the way, his name is real. He did play Division I baseball, and his name is Diamyn. And I gave him the whole reason why that happened, but we ain't going to talk about that online. As I read his bio, I want you to just be thinking like, man, who do I know that needs to be here for this conversation? We don't want to miss out on this wisdom. Diamyn Hall is currently known as the world's #1 online mindset coach in baseball. He is the creator of the Hitter's Blackbook and the creator of the Mental Game Blueprint VIP. He's a former Division I baseball player. Wait, we forgive him for that. And he also is a baseball coach who has become a well-established speaker along the way. He's spoken in front of thousands of people. And through the gift of social media, he has impacted millions of lives around the world through his social media platforms and his viral videos, which I told you he'd be doing that hypnosis stuff on the videos, man. He's also behind the scenes establishing himself as one of the industry's leading authorities for online business coaching, where he mentors, coaches, and teaches highly driven online entrepreneurs how to make $10K a month on autopilot. So you want to learn from his wisdom today, man. That's it. I'm done running my commercials. I want to hop right in, okay, to your sports story. When did you get into sports? When did you know was that moment like, man, I want to do this like full time? Why didn't you play in the MLB? And how did you get to where you are now? So just go ahead and run the full movie for us.
Age 14. The goal was to get to the NFL. Watch my mom, as a single mother, struggle throughout the course of my life. And my goal in my mind was to simply be able to get to the NFL, make a ton of money, and everything would be great. Everything. Played against McNick, I think it was. And at this time, I was like one of the top running backs in the country. I went to a Catholic high school called Archbishop Altair, one of the greatest places ever, right? Had so many different guys come out of there, like Chris Borland, so many other guys. Anyways, I went head on with somebody and was temporarily paralyzed from my neck down. Now, when this happened, Daryl, it was like I didn't know it was temporary at that time. All I knew is that I was staring at the sky and I couldn't move. Like I couldn't move anything from here down.
That's crazy.
And for me, during that moment, I had to come to a place of peace because I had seen this over and over and over again on TV. Like guys get paralyzed, they can't move anymore. That's the end of their life. They're staring at the ceiling for the rest of their life. People have got to feed them in different ways. Nothing. I thought that was going to be my life. I had to come to peace with that in that moment because I knew what was happening. Like when you're trying to tell your hands to do this and they're not doing anything, when you're trying to move your arms and they're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's scary, bro.
It was terrifying. It was terrifying. And I think that was the start of my leadership journey, my personal development journey, growing my bookshelf, pouring knowledge into my mind, because that humbled me at a deep level.
Mm.
And luckily, a few weeks later, I found out that I wouldn't be able to play the game anymore. But it was temporary. So that was the good news about it. It was temporary. I wouldn't be able to play the game anymore. So for me, it was just like a devastating moment, man. When you have something taken from you at the snap of a finger, when it's completely outside of your control, and you're already on track to reach your goals, like you've already got scouts coming to watch. Like it was just crazy. But for me, I'd learned from my mom and her mindset and her approach to life, growing up. And one thing that she's always preached and practiced and then preached, actually, is turn every situation into a positive situation. Take every problem and turn it into a solution. So for me, I had to take that problem that I was facing. I had to take that devastating moment, and I had to turn it into, pouring into baseball. I put all my energy, all my effort in baseball.
Right.
One of my friends, he gifted me this book. What was it called? Heads Up Baseball, by Dr. Tom Hansen and Dr. Ken Revisa. And Dr. Tom Hansen, he actually wrote the foreword to the Hitter's Blackbook later on. But that was like the beginning of the journey for me, the beginning of my personal development, leadership, everything. Because I did, when things like that happen and you're not expecting them to happen, it just transforms the way you look at life. It transforms your worldview. And so for me, it was like, I have to figure this out.
Right.
Even though I haven't done this before, even though I'm stepping inside of this game called baseball, and all these guys have been playing since they were young, and I'm just stepping inside of this game, I've got to catch up, not only catch up, but then I've got to pass my peers, and I've got to become the best version of myself and still reach that goal, getting to the MLB. So ended up getting a scholarship to Lincoln Trail Community College, 2 years, then got a scholarship to a Division I in Louisiana, Grambling State. While I was there, the first year I was at Grambling State, I was one of the best players in the country, one of the best hitters. And this is another frustrating moment that I had to go through. Tore my ACL, like on the draft board, 250,000, 10th round. Scouts were flooding in. It was me and two of my other teammates. We were absolute monsters. 7th game during the season, I'm hitting like 375. And you don't know baseball, like that's really good.
Yeah, that's good.
Tore my ACL on the day after the TV game where I went 4 for 4. Tore my ACL, so had to go through that whole process. Came back here to Ohio, did surgery with Dr. Krimchek with the Reds. Went all in there, came back faster, stronger, better. But during that time, the mistake that I made was that I stopped focusing on all of the things that I had learned when it came to my mindset, when it came to peak performance. You know what I mean? Like I stopped tapping into those things. And so that hurt me when I came back. I didn't produce at the level that I should have in order to get drafted. Then my scholarship got stripped away from me. So I had to go to a Division II.
Because you weren't playing no more.
Say that again?
Because you wasn't playing anymore? That's why they like
this was because I didn't produce at the level that I was producing before I tore my ACL.
So they didn't renew your scholarship.
They didn't renew the scholarship.
Oh, that's dirty.
Yep.
they played you. They did you wrong, bro.
Hey, that's how it works, though. You know what I mean?
Man, in baseball, they do like that in football, bro.
And it's different too, because with football, you guys have so many different scholarships. With baseball, we only have like 11.
Yeah, that's true. Dang, they cut you quick. Hey, bro, you need to read my book.
For me, it's like shit.
Yeah,
like, you got your break.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But I still stayed true to everything that I'd learned and who I was. Turned it into a positive. Went into that situation. It was great. And then jumped on staff at Wright State after my career was over. Got there and was like, the value that I'm adding when it comes to the mental side of the game, when it comes to the mindset coaching, when it comes to the mental training, our guys are getting incredible results. But there was this weight on my shoulders that I couldn't get away from. It was this little voice telling me inside, like, the results that you're getting for these 35 players, everybody around the world, every hitter around the world, every baseball player around the world, they need to feel this, experience this, and get these results too. And it's going to start with you, Diamyn. Like, you've got the answers. You're getting these guys results right now. So for me, that calling was just there. So I stepped off staff at Wright State after that year, jumped inside of the online realm, had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I had to get the message and I had to get this information. And I had to get this knowledge into other people's hands around the world. So I got myself a mentor. I mean, get yourself a mentor, get yourself a coach, and then they transform the game for you. And it did. It allowed me to create a course. It allowed me to put everything on autopilot, to be able to serve people at an incredibly high level with time freedom, financial freedom, like all of those things. And now it's like you can navigate and do things the way you want to do them. So now I've kind of transitioned into keeping that, like with the Hitter's Blackbook in the course.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guys are still going through that process, but now I'm teaching people how to do what I did when it came to that 10K month. And then giving them the insights and the tools of, hey, you don't want this to only be money driven, because if you're only money driven throughout this process, you're going to get to 10K a month and then you're going to feel empty.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to start with the people that you're serving. It's got to be people centric. And I didn't understand that until, I'd heard it before, but I didn't understand that until I actually experienced it.
Right.
So that's kind of where I am now.
Crazy, man. Crazy story, man. And it's so, you kind of went through it. Was there a low point for you? Was there a being angry at the world? Was there a mad at coaches? Like, was there a wrestling match? And what was that like?
All of those. Well, the first one when I lost football, I was thinking, why me?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what's natural. Why me? There was a 2-period time frame after the doctors told me I couldn't play anymore. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I have no idea. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. That's all I put my effort and energy and time into. I'm talking about hours and hours and hours. So that's the first thing. And that felt awful. That was like devastating. It was shocking. It was depressing. It was dark, man. It was terrible. But again, when we go through those moments, we have to be able to pull ourselves out of those moments and extract the lessons that come from it, and then take action based on the things that we learn. Because I look at it like, if we didn't have adversity, if we didn't have failures, if we didn't have that, like the success wouldn't be as sweet. If we succeed all the time, like, that would get boring. The fun part is actually being able to fail and then looking back at your failures and saying, oh, wow, I learned A, B, C, D, E, F, and G when I went through that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can give this to other people and pour this into other people. I think it was Steve Jobs. I don't remember the exact quote, but he said, you can't connect the dots until you look back.
Mm-hmm.
The dots are always there, but you don't connect them until you look back.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's what kind of applies there. And then when I tore my ACL, that was another, like, I was almost there.
Yeah.
I was almost there, bro.
I know.
I was almost there. So when I tore my ACL, it was just another one of those tough time periods.
Yeah.
And I had to stick with what I had trained my mind to do in those moments, which was tough. It was still hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was still dark. It was still terrible. My coaches were in tears. My teammates were in tears. I was in tears because of the work that I put in, man. The work. When you talk about like 10,000 hours from the outliers, like, that was my motto.
Mm-hmm.
Like 10,000 hours. I was literally up before everyone, going to sleep after everyone, putting in work in the cages. Like, I was making sure I was working harder than everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That was really tough too. And then obviously, whenever the scholarship got stripped away, that was frustrating because being young and being in that situation, I understood leadership and taking ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But when you collide like that, like, that's how it typically happens. Now looking back on it, it's like, no, that was my responsibility. I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
Right.
After I tore my ACL, I didn't stay with what was working.
Mm-hmm.
After I tore my ACL, therefore, in result, I came back didn't produce at the level that I should have produced at. Now that's me saying this now, looking back.
Yeah, I get you.
At that time, I had a completely different perspective, like any other athlete would. But yeah, all of those things, man.
Man, it's so much I could really drill into there because I got similar story in mind, but I'm not gonna go there, man. What I do want to address is okay. So number one mindset coach for baseball players. I want to talk about that and then pivot into like people who are non-athletes.
Yes.
But specifically as it relates to being a great hitter, what is the mindset that helps them to perform better?
I wouldn't say. See, with the hitter's Blackbook, it's interesting. The way that's set up is showing them the core things to focus on so that they have no other choice but to succeed. And that's through like practical things. But the principles inside of there also are really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
There's Blackbook, it's a little bit different. But inside of the course is where we dive into like the actual beliefs, the peeling back the layers there, understanding that you're the number one asset that you have in your life, in your career, in your in your area. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, not at all. Like I'm trying to get one of those limiting beliefs. Like what keeps them from performing at their highest level?
I think one of the main limiting beliefs is just not believing that they can actually succeed at the level that they want to succeed at.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think everybody's, even in business, sometimes we limit ourselves and we're like, I don't know if I can do what that person's doing when we actually can. It's just a matter of opening up our minds and stepping inside of that uncomfortability and allowing ourselves to look in the mirror and say, you are a freaking monster. You are amazing. You are incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You do have the potential to do this, but our society has taught us to do the complete opposite, to question ourselves all the time, no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
To go outside whenever we have a question versus going inside. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit more. And then even there, I found that, even in baseball and in business, the inner journey is what matters most.
Mm-hmm.
The inner conversations are what matter most. When you can master those and work on those and get obsessed with those, all the outer stuff comes as a result. Like your inner world creates your outer world.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught this when I was younger. And for me, I never had any like real mentors growing up. My books were my mentors. So that right there, understanding that when you go inside and then it's going to create your outside, when you start working on that every single day, the game changes. Perspective changes.
Man, what do you feel is, there's a billion online coaches and mindset coaches. And I think, have you been on Clubhouse?
Of course.
Okay. I don't know if I've seen you on there or not, but
you got to follow.
Yeah, I gotta do it. But I've been trying to chill out because I've been on there way too much, man.
It's
addicting, man. So, anyways, if I open up my app right now, I guarantee you I'll see a billion mindset coaches, right? But the question is, it's like, what do you feel makes you different?
Me. What makes the other coaches different is them. What makes you different in your niche is you. This is one of the first things that people mix up in business when they get started. And I, sometimes I did too. I thought it was about the competition. I thought it was about the product. I thought it was about the actual course. I thought it was about the actual, which all of those things are very, very important, right? But at the end of the day, if someone's going to buy from you, they're going to buy from you.
Yeah.
So it's really right here. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's your story, how you got to where you are. People are going to resonate with it. Like I went to a Catholic high school. That might resonate with people who went to a Catholic high school.
Yeah.
I also went to a Christian middle school, right? And then I went to a public school. So now if I share those stories, like I just resonated with 3 different groups of people. You know what I mean? And that's because of my experience. So it really comes down to being vulnerable Some people like to call it being vulnerable, being authentic, whatever you want to call it. It's just a matter of sharing your story and owning your story.
Right.
Being embarrassed about our stories, which is another thing that society has taught us to do, which we have to unlearn and learn how to own our stories and learn how to extract the lessons from our stories and then learn how to share our stories in a way where it connects with someone else at such a deep level that after they hear you, like, oh my goodness, like I've got to go follow this dude on Instagram.
Right.
Look at all of his posts, all of his captions. What is he saying here? Does he have a YouTube? Like everything. That's how it happens. I mean, that's how I came across and learned from the people I've learned from.
Yeah. 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 Guys, if you just now tuning in, we are talking with Diamyn Hall. He's known as the world's #1 online mindset coach for baseball players. He's worked with tons of professional teams. He was a college coach. He helps people produce consistent 10K months. I mean, the guy's a beast. One of the questions that I want to ask you, and by the way, guys, if you got questions, just drop them in the chat. We should be able to see them. If not, I apologize in advance because sometimes the platform StreamYard be acting funny. But talk about confidence. How does one develop self-confidence?
Yeah, a lot of people have different beliefs on confidence. My personal belief is confidence it's similar to faith. It's knowing that things will work out and knowing that you're going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens.
Yeah.
My definition of confidence, knowing that I'm going to figure it out no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Give you a perfect example. Last year, my mom, she got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, metastatic. Okay, so it means it spread to other areas. During that time period, this was another crazy time period. But one of her friends, she had some resources, which were 2 documentaries on Netflix, right? One was Forks Over Knives, and then the other was called Game Changers. We watched those. After we watched those, it completely shifted our mindset around what we were putting into our body. Okay. And then after that, I was like, I'm all in. I'm committed. Cause that's just me. That's who I am. Like if I find out something like that I need to know, like I just go all in with it because I really do think, I don't think about myself anymore when I make decisions. I think about my kids. I think about my kids as kids. I think about the generational things that are being passed down. And so with this, it's like when you can go along those lines and think about that and actually go all in with whatever it is that you're learning, it changes the game. But it starts with commitment. And remind me, I got a little bit off track. What was your original question there?
Yeah, building self-confidence.
Building self-confidence. Okay, yeah. So with that, like I had confidence that we were going to go plant-based. 100% confidence that we were going to go plant-based. Had no idea, knew nothing about it other than those 2 documentaries that we had watched. And I also shared it with Diamyn, and Diamyn was like, I'm in too. Let's go. Let's do it.
Hey, is that weird that y'all name is both Diamyn?
I know, it's crazy.
I was like, I saw that. I was like, man, somebody lying, man. Ain't nobody both named Diamyn. This is weird. Like if you call her Diamyn, she call you Diamyn. It's just like that's not weird to y'all.
Yeah, we've gotten used to it.
That's so weird, man. I could not do that. Like I could not just be calling myself somebody. If my wife's name was Daryl, that'd be terrible. I guess Diamyn is definitely a unisex name. Yeah. Yeah, it can go both ways. It can be a guy's name or a girl's name, but Daryl is more like guy's name.
Yeah, the girl's name is Daryl. I don't know how that wouldn't be. Yeah.
I did know there's a girl in college. Her name was Darylyn, and that was awkward too. You know, that was too close. That was too close, and she spelled it similar to me too, man. She was cool people though. She was cool people. So yeah, man. You know,
with the confidence, it's just knowing that you're going to figure it out no matter what, even if you don't know the how.
Yeah, I love the correlation that you said between faith, because I would agree. It is that like this is going to work out. And you know, one of the things I've been hearing a lot, and I'm actually about to produce some content on it to Monday, right? But I love to hear your take on this term that keeps going around, like imposter syndrome, right? Yeah. You know, people, you know, so there's 2 ends that I see it come from. It's the people who are being coached, right? So if you're working with someone trying to help them get the 10K months consistently, and they start charging these higher prices and they feel like they're an imposter. And then it's like people who, in my industry, like speaking, right? I feel like I'm in these rooms and I'm an imposter. I don't belong here. So it has nothing necessarily to do with price. It has everything to do with like experience. Either way, you feel like you don't belong. And so I'm curious to know, what's your perspective on how does one overcome imposter syndrome?
If you feel like you're experiencing imposter syndrome, stay there, continue doing whatever that is. Because what it really is just uncomfortability. Being outside of our comfort zone. So the first thing I think of is something that my mentor shared with me a while ago, and he was talking about how when he had only had a 5-figure business, like when he would talk to people with a 6-figure business, a little bit uncomfortable. Right now, this is what people would tie to imposter syndrome. Same thing with people who are multimillionaires stepping in a room with billionaires. There's going to be a little bit of uncomfortability there. Just the nature of the economic status, the different experiences, you know what I mean? A little bit of insecurity, because I mean, that's just how our society works in a way when it comes to status. So I would say when you experience imposter syndrome, stay there. Like for me, when I get in rooms where I'm uncomfortable, I get in rooms where I'm uncomfortable. I'm like these guys are like VPs of different things, but like I stay in there and I take notes. And then if I feel like there's something I can share, that I actually know something about, then I do that. And it's a little bit uncomfortable, but it just comes back down to uncomfortability and being okay with being in that uncomfortable space, understanding what's happening with your psychology and through your body, and saying, I'm going to stay right here and we're going to breathe through it. We're going to figure it out. And I'm going to come back here as much as I can so I can grow at an incredible level. For me, dude, when I experience like imposter syndrome or on a stage, even in person with someone who's done way more than me, that for me, it actually motivates me. It's like, shit, that's what's possible. Might be a little bit uncomfortable, but that's what's possible. Let me go pick that. Let me go pick his brain. Let me go pick her brain. That's what we got to switch it to.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is so inward focused. So it's so destructive. So destructive. So we've got to change the meaning around what it is and then what to do when we experience it.
Yeah. I like what you said, because it's like my strategy is different, but I like that I might steal that now, because I like it. Instead of feeling like an imposter, why don't you ask questions and be curious, right? And I love that shift, because it immediately takes you from like self-destructive to in a growing mentality, right? So you go from like destroying to growing, and I like that. So I'm gonna add that to my content. One of the things, I just tell people is like, man, you just go. Like, I think we spend too much, and I'm a man of faith, right? And I believe a lot of these negative thoughts come from the enemy, right? And I tell people, stop dialoguing with the devil. It's like we try to conversate and convince all of these negative thoughts that we have. And I'm like, stop it. Like, you don't have to entertain the thought just because it enters your mind.
Yep. You are not.
So why don't you just like stop like trying to argue with this? And why don't you just like literally like just like do whatever it is that your fear is trying to talk you out of doing? Right. Like, and I always tell this story when I went from charging 5K to 10K to speak. I remember the first time I said 10K, I told people I had to sit on my hands and I had to bite the inside of my cheeks, because everything in me wanted to be like, or whatever your budget could afford, and it's like bargain and hustle. Like, and it was like, no. And it was such a long silence. And that particular engagement didn't end up working out, but it was like, man, it felt so good to just finally just say it. Yes. And then I didn't feel like an imposter anymore, And so, man, I love what you're saying around that. Any other thoughts on imposter syndrome?
Yes, I'll have you consider that when you start charging 50K, the same thing's gonna come up. You're gonna have to do the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's what people don't understand. When we level up, like at all, like they're literally, I believe they're literally levels to life. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you what you say or what you think about it, but like that's what I believe, and I believe when we get to this place, like if we're here, okay, we're here, and we get here, like as soon as we get here, like this is that zone of uncomfortability where this imposter syndrome is going to kick in. It's where It's where the insecurities are going to kick in. It's where your mind is going to start telling you, oh, you might want to not do this right now. You want to wait until later, and you do it anyways. And then you have that breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another level that you're going to have to experience, whether it's with money, whether it's with relationships, whether it's with faith, whether it's with your body, whether it's with your career, whatever it is. Like there's that next level of uncomfortability that your brain is going to tell you like, hey, you shouldn't do this. You should do something else. And when you do it anyways, you'll have another breakthrough. That's how I think about breakthroughs. It's like, it's a mental thing. It's a physical thing, and it's a metaphysical thing at the end of the day. I think it's a real thing, man. And it starts with having
what's that? I heard it said like your floor or your ceiling becomes your floor, right? And then you overcome another ceiling, and then that becomes your floor. Like it's just a constant game of leveling up.
Yeah, and it's a matter of enjoying that process.
Yeah,
not avoiding it, but enjoying it.
Yeah,
knowing it's gonna come, and then being ready for it, and then being ready to, just like we did on the football field, right? Like. Before the game, we have all of these things bubbling up inside of us, and then once we got on the field, it was like, it's go time.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is, speaking of that mentality, I noticed that a lot of athletes don't have it after their career, right? And I actually, and I get it, like, going from a top to the bottom of something is like challenging, but even when like early on that competitors, like, that don't tell me I can't because I will type of mentality. In sports, athletes are very competitive, but when we talk about like online business or speaking or like coaching or like whatever, and they see somebody that's like way better than them, there's not that like, well, I can outdo them, I'm gonna outwork them, I don't care how much money they make, I'm gonna make more. Like they lose that like, I'm going to be the best mentality. Do you see that?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because with sports, there's like that physical aspect to it. And it's
right.
Like with football, like that's you can't go out in the street and like smash somebody's head. That's illegal. That's illegal. That's illegal, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I think that aspect plays a big role because that's accepted, like UFC. You know what I mean? So I think that plays a big role because that's like that arena where all of these things that we don't and we are not allowed to do that are illegal outside of these arenas are able to be done.
Right.
So I think that plays a role in it too. And when we are in that arena, we can say like, look at the other person and say, I'm gonna let's go. But out here, it's like that'll actually hurt relationships in business. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different. It's just a whole different game. But I think that plays a big role, is that physical aspect, that societal aspect. And yeah, it's interesting. That's an interesting conversation to dive into right there.
Yeah, it is. And because it's like, it's still in there, but for some reason you've, I don't know, become extremely insecure. And then it's crazy because if you flip it, and it don't, man, I'm telling you, it does not matter if they old, like they could be 50, 70, like they can be injured, not even what they used to be. But if you start talking about their particular sport, in their mind, they still got the beast, they still got the dog. Yep. But if you start comparing them to other people in other industries, it's like that I can't word comes back into that vocabulary. And that's I don't know, it's just mind-boggling to me. It's an interesting, I'm sure some like sports psychologists have probably figured it out.
Yeah, that's where those limiting beliefs come in, and those false stories that we've got to break.
Absolutely. But it seems as if you already have the pathway in your mind built out, that like, because I had to, in order to be an elite athlete, you got to overcome a lot of limiting beliefs.
Oh yeah,
a lot of limiting beliefs. I mean, clutch game situations. I mean, even like being behind with 2 minutes left, like all those things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Plays a role is too in business. Like you've got to do it all on your own. With sports, like you've got a time for practice. All of that is set up for you. You've got like your competitions are set up for you. You've got 50 of those, 16 of those, 20 of those a year where you're going to be going head to head with somebody. But now it's like it's a different game because now it's like you yourself, and you have to build a team as an entrepreneur. You have to build and be able to become a better leader as an entrepreneur. And now it's about connecting with different people who are different personalities. Where in the game of football and baseball, like we just show up and we become the best versions of ourselves, and then we lead by example, right? Like, so I think, man, this is a good conversation right here.
Right. Speaking of entrepreneurs, do you think entrepreneurs are born or made?
I think that there's a lot of nature to it, a lot of chemistry, a lot of brain chemistry, and just our thought process and how we view the world, how we tie meanings to the different experiences that we have from a young age. I do think there's a little bit of both nature and nurture. Um, I think it also has to do with like personality type and behaviors too. Like if you ever, I don't know if you've ever taken like the disc test, but
Mhm.
proven like most entrepreneurs are either high D's or high I's. Now C's and S's, they can be entrepreneurs as well. It's just a different game. But when you think about the goats that we look up to, like I
Mhm.
was in a room with Les Brown the other day. He's a high D, high I, easy.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
by how comfortable he is and how much
Mhm.
he shares, just natural.
Right.
So and that doesn't mean like no one else can do it. It's just a different game. It's just figuring out what we have to do differently to be able to get to where we want to get to.
Mhm.
So I think that plays a role. I think it does. I think some entrepreneurs are born.
Yeah.
Like how some people hate me for this sometimes, but
Yeah. So when I look back, because I was way more on the made side because of how much I had to learn. But then I look back and I'm like, man, you know what? I was trying to hustle when I was young. And then I even look back before, I met Christ and I was selling drugs. I was like, oh, this is an entrepreneur. I just wasn't doing it
I mean,
legally.
when you
Yeah.
think about it, seriously.
Yeah. It's the same skill set,
Yep.
you know?
And
Uh yeah. What do you think is the number one skill or component to being a successful entrepreneur, and why?
the number one skill to being a successful entrepreneur. I don't even think you understand how my mind works. I just had like a whole list of things, just like um, hmm, the number one skill set. I'd say it's being willing to always put yourself in a position to grow and learn from other people.
Mhm. So, like, being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to is that
Mhm.
growth aspect.
Mhm.
Because believe it or not, a lot of people don't. A lot of people are resistant to growth. Sometimes, I've known people um, who stepped inside of the personal development realm and been uncomfortable when they first gotten into it. And that's for me, that's baffling because for me, my experience has been different. At 14, I took what I had and what I'd experienced and turned it into like, okay, I've got to learn now. I'm like, this is all I have. I only have these books. These books are giving me the answers. So, and that's what's continued to get me leveling
Right.
up, like having conversations with people who are succeeding at a level that I want to succeed at.
Yeah.
Not getting jealous, being inspired by it.
Right.
But it all starts with that willingness to grow and learn from other people, instead of looking inward, instead of pointing the finger at ourselves and saying, "Oh man, look at them. If they're doing this, then there's something wrong with me." Versus
Mhm.
them, let me go figure out how I can have a conversation with them and learn from them and take
Mhm.
some notes from you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it comes down to growth.
Yeah.
Like all successful entrepreneurs love growing.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I think a lot of things fall underneath that category of being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And they say that growth is just outside of your comfort zone, right? Because if the moment you're comfortable, even in physical fitness, then you're not growing. You're just maintaining or you're moving backwards. Speaking of health, what's your philosophy on how does, if at all, your health affect your wealth?
I think when I think about wealth, there are a few things that fall under the category of wealth. When I think about rich, there are things that fall under the category of rich. Those things being finances,
Hmm.
relationships, your body, which is your health, and your career, and your mind. Like all of those things fall into those categories. And what I think happens is people first hear wealth or rich, like they immediately think about money, but more to attaining money than just focusing on money. For example, whenever I hit the 10K mark, it wasn't like my relationships and the way I looked at people and the way I focused on people wasn't where it should have been. And to get to 100K, I'm going to have to fall in love with, you know what I mean? You're going to have to fall in love with people at such a deep level that you're willing to do whatever to get them the result that they need to get. That just comes from being a great person, right? So the whole game is flipped on itself. So to answer your question, when it comes to the health, restate the question again. I don't know if I answered the question.
How do you think that health impacts wealth? If so, how so?
I think energy.
Okay.
The energy that you have. For me, being plant-based, my energy is at an incredibly high level every day. I got to experience this first whenever I went to California. I think it was a few years ago. One of my guys, Blake Rose, he flew me out, and that whole time I was there, he was like, dude, I'm a vegan, I'm plant-based. I said, what is that? I don't even know what that is. He was like, I'll just make you the smoothies, I'll just make you the food. And after I left there, I was like, bro, I feel different. Like, what's going on here? You feel like this all the time? Like, I feel different right now.
You feel like this all the
time. I'm so serious, bro, because at this time I was eating like McDonald's, I was eating like Wendy's, I was eating all this fast food stuff. And I just didn't know. You just don't know what you don't know until, you're educated on it, right?
Right.
So even at that time, like I knew that going plant-based would help with my energy, how I felt, how I produced, how I went about my days, my clarity, everything. But I still didn't dive all the way into it. Fortunately, it took, last year, me going through this with my mom for me to finally say I'm all in with it.
Right.
And then she's experienced the same things. Diamyn has experienced the same things. It's like it really does make a difference. So to answer your question, I think energy plays a huge role in how we produce and how we go about our days.
I love it. I want to start landing this plane here, and oh man, what's like a note I want to end on? There's so much directions I can go. Let me think. Here we go. What do you want your legacy to be?
As far as what it's going to say on my tombstone, what
are people going to say about you at your funeral? Like, what's going to continue going after you leave this planet because of what you did on this planet?
I'm going to want people to say that Diamyn Hall was a grower, a relentless grower and a relentless giver, and loved to pour into people every single day. And the legacy for me, I want my kids and my grandkids to have all the answers, all the resources, of course, right? Like, and I'm working on that right now. Like everything I do, I document, and I'm going to make sure I've got all the principles and processes that I learned throughout the course of this life so that they can have it. Yeah. So when I think about legacy, that's what I think about. I think about how I leave an imprint on the world, on the people who aren't actually within my family, and then the people who do continue the family tree.
Love it, man. If somebody is like, oh my gosh, dude's a beast, man, I want to connect with him, where should they go to connect with you?
Got Instagram. We got Clubhouse now.
Yeah.
We got what's the YouTube? What other things we got? LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter as well. All of these things are Diamyn Hall, DIAMYNHALL. And if you have any questions at all about anything we've talked about, feel free to reach out. I love giving. I love giving. I love pouring into people more than people know, man. I know I charge people up, but I think life is about people.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about anything more, anything less. I think when we focus on people, we do is people-centric, whether it's within our family, whether it's within the people who we're around every day, whether it's within our customer base, our client base. Like if we focus on people, life will give you whatever you want. Like it's all about people. I can't stress that enough.
I agree. Speaking of people, I want to thank everyone who tuned in to join us. And if you are watching this replay and you're not live, we just want to say thank you for tuning in. You can always rewind, watch the record. Make sure you take notes. But right now is the point of transformation. I always say this: information without application equals stagnation. So we don't want that to happen to you. And it's not going to happen to you. Why? Because you are going to do what most people don't do, and you're going to implement. You're going to take a tip, a strategy, a mindset, something that you learned today, and you're going to say, how can I immediately put this into practice? Maybe you can do something outside of your comfort zone today. Maybe you can look at yourself in the mirror and start changing that self inner talk that we talked about earlier in the episode. Like, those are things, I don't know what it is, like whatever resonated with you, just make sure you implement now, because that's the only way that your life is going to move forward. So remember, guys, it doesn't matter like how many mistakes you made. It doesn't matter like what you've done or what has happened to you. Life has a way of awarding us second chances, and second chances exist so that we can finish strong. So go finish strong, my friends.